I recently had the pleasure of working with my very own baby sister in order to design and assemble her wedding invitations. So that was a lot of fun. We really enjoyed doing the process together. And during that time, when I was coaching her on how to wrap her invitations with this beautiful ribbon, I realized that my old video probably didn't give quite enough information on this topic. So today we're going to update my video on how to wrap your invitations with ribbon and a wax seal. I hope that you'll find it really helpful and even enjoyable, and that it will take some of the overwhelm out of the entire process for you. All right, let's dive in. For this tutorial, you're obviously going to need the thing that you're wrapping with ribbon, and I will specifically be using the Climbing Roses wedding suite that I made in partnership with Artisire. It's beautifully printed, it has a full pattern back, and a lot of fun elements to it. I've just pulled the invitations for now, and we're gonna set those off to the side, and we'll go into that a little bit more in a bit. I also have the ribbon. I've been playing around with which color we should use. I love the gold contrasted with this blue. There's a lot of blue in the full suite that we're going to be using in a little bit. But I think I'm going to keep it monochrome. And then you're obviously going to want your stamper as well for your wax. This is in the exclusive Botanical Initial design, also available at Artisire right now in the K. But a close second, when I almost picked, is the Garden Roses design. Also beautiful, one of my favorites. It also has a personalization option for you if you are interested in that. And depending on your method of melting your wax, you're going to need your wax either beads or sticks. If you're using beads, you'll probably want to go with a melting spoon and a candle. This is a great option if you need more help with this. I have a full video that I'll link right now that'll go through more details on this part of the process. But for this tutorial, I will be using a hot glue gun and the glue stick method, the wax sticks, there we go, method. One thing to keep in mind is that for the wax that you will need, if you calculate that out, there's a really handy tool on Artisire's website. Not all companies have that. But you'll want to include at least one extra stick, not only for mistakes, but to push the wax that's currently in the hot glue gun all the way through. So just something to keep in mind as you are purchasing, and make sure that you have those on hand. Next, we'll need my secret weapon, or one of my two secret weapons rather, a bag of ice cubes. And I just put it in a Ziploc bag to keep things from getting messy. This is what we'll use to chill our stamper in order to keep things moving quickly. It just helps with the whole process. I also like to put it in a pretty dish. And last but certainly not least is parchment paper or baking paper. We're going to use this between the hot wax and our invitations in order to protect it so that it's not ruined and it's able to take it off. That is, in the end, a goal is that we're not trying to ruin everything. We're trying to enhance and beautify the whole experience. So this parchment paper is a great option. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to kind of prep our assembly line, and we're going to cut our ribbon to the length that we want. You're going to want to make sure that it goes all the way around, and then obviously a little bit of extra give. Now, some people want it to fit pretty flush, as in it's just kind of a solid band of ribbon, in which case you obviously want some overlap, but you don't want more than maybe ½ an inch or so. Again, if you want something that is a little bit more flush and it's kind of a more modern and a clean look, this is about where you want to cut it. So about there, and you'd measure this section then and cut them all at this length. If you want kind of that clean look, this is about 11 inches. But if you want a more whimsical look with a little bit of a tail, you're obviously going to need a little bit more ribbon for that. Also, you want to calculate in kind of the twist. So I usually, when I've worked with brides in the past, I usually assume that it's going to go, one kind of up and one kind of down. You don't want it to, I don't really recommend a knot because that gets really thick underneath the wax seal itself, but having something kind of like this really works well. Now, if you want them both to go down, you can kind of continue the twist, maybe do a quick tuck like this, depending on your ribbon. It could, if you had like a velvet ribbon, you'd be on the bad side, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. But just something to keep in mind. If you want more of a bow twist like that, you're going to need a little bit more ribbon, a little bit more give. And just fuss with it, kind of decide how you want it to be. You know, if you want it like that, that's great. I think I'm going to go with the simple twist. It makes life a little bit easier in the long run for me, and I think it's just as beautiful. So save that simple twist. We want it to kind of match on this side. I'm going to go down to about here. Let's measure how long that is. We're about 15.5 inches to have a little bit of extra give. So I'm going to cut the rest of this ribbon to 15.5 inches in order to make sure that I have it all ready and at the right length. That will make things much easier when we're able to do it more like an assembly line. All right, so we have our invitations, we have our ribbon cut and ready, we have our wax stamper, so we've got our hot wax. Now we're going to take our parchment paper, and actually I have a piece already set aside, and I'm just going to tear off a section about that size. It can be a little bit smaller. You just want to make sure that there's plenty of room for your wax to go onto. I don't want to get me. And you might notice that I have this piece crumpled now. I actually find parchment paper is significantly easier to work with if it's crumbled, because then it's not curling up and trying to roll away from being on the roll. So having a nice crumpled piece of parchment paper actually helps a lot. And we're going to place that on our invitation. We're working one invitation at a time. You're going to take your ribbon that we've pre-measured and should be ready to go. Don't worry if your edges are a little bit funny like that. When everything is all said and done, you'll have plenty of time to adjust and fuss over it. So we're going a little bit over the edge, which is good, and I'm going to twist it and hold it there. And now I really want to make sure my parchment paper is all the way around my ribbon so that any wax that falls off of this will be caught. Okay, we're going to do the whole thing again, zoomed up. So we've got our invitation, we've got our parchment paper placed on, covering and protecting our invitation, because if the hot wax touches this paper, the paper is porous and the wax will stick. All right, now we're going to take our ribbon, wrap it around, make sure it's the right side up. This ribbon has a wrong side, has like a wrong side and a right side. So making sure we're right side up, give it a good twist. Doesn't matter which way you twist. You might notice I didn't done it differently that time. This is when you fuss with it. You want it to be nice and flat. You don't want any like folded up areas. You don't want anything folded up like this was kind of folding up, or you don't want this showing the bad side, because this is how it's going to stay. All right, and next I'm going to show you one of my very favorite tricks. This is kind of a more recent development for me, but I am excited to share it with you. You're going to put just a little bit of wax down, not a lot. We're not going for beauty here. You're going to take your stamper down and you're going to push that in. And since it's chilled, it will cool real fast. If you have a lot of excess, oops, I just stuck my finger in it. It will still be hot. So you can see that my design is upside down. It wasn't fully covered. That's totally fine. We're going to fix that right now. So now that this is down, I don't have to hold and fuss with this ribbon anymore. It is exactly where I want it to be. It's beautiful. I'm very happy with this placement. Now we're going to go in with our full hot glue gun, and we're going to put at least 1.5 pumps down. And by pumps, I mean like pumps with the trigger here. And we're going to do 1, and I like to keep my nozzle nice and low because you're not going to have like any ripples or kind of funny things. And then a little extra. This will give it a little bit more of an organic feel, but also make sure that your design is fully covered. Now I'm going to take my stamper, and it's not a bad idea to wipe it off if there's some condensation on it. Line up the arrows, if you have an Art Desire design, with the bottom, and press. See how the wax of our second press is kind of bubbling over the excess wax that we had down there. Now, if you're really picky, you can kind of pick off the excess wax from our first initial stamp, but you usually don't need to. It did pop right off because it's nice and chilled, so I'm going to place it down here. And we've got our finished stamper. Now, having some blank spots like that is totally normal. When you're working with an organic element like this, that is going to change and adjust. That's normal. It's part of working with ribbon, and it gives you a more organic feel. So I actually like it. I like that element of it. If you don't like that, maybe don't work with ribbon, but also just put more wax down in order to make sure that you're covering everything. So let's repeat, make sure that we got it. So we've got our invitation, we've got our crinkled parchment paper. This is a new piece. I've kept the original piece on this first one until this wax stamper totally cools. I don't like it if it's kind of going off the edge. There we go. So we've got our parchment paper, we've got our ribbon, and we're going to wrap it all the way around. We've got a little bit of overhang on each end. And we're going to, and we're just going to twist it and kind of spread our fingers out. Now again, we've got it twisted with thicker ribbon like this, which this is 1-inch ribbon. You're going to want to fuss with it and get it nice and flat. The flatter it is, the less bald spots you'll have, like this one. And then just make sure it's how you want. If you want it to be a little straighter like this, if you want it to be more like a traditional like wrapped present like this, where it's making an X or a cross, then you'll want to twist that there. You might need to relax it a little bit in order to get everything to lay as flat as possible. I've done many presents like this and they look really good. It looks super cute. So this is a great option. I'm going to keep it a little more close to home. So that's just my preference. It's a little easier too in the end. So once it's kind of laying how we want it to be, we're going to place that initial wax blob. So this is kind of half a pump, and again, a pump is a pull on the trigger. I'm going to place it down, and it doesn't matter if it's straight or not. Placing that back on the ice to chill. It should be dry pretty quickly, but you'll see it's obviously not covering it. I did not put enough wax to do that, and I didn't want to. It's just to hold it there so I can make sure that the main placement where everything is lined up and ready to go, I can make sure that's perfect. Now, quick tip, if you're not using a stamper that has an arrow like this, or just a sign as to where the bottom of your wax seal is, you can easily take a regular pencil, find the bottom of your wax seal, this is the Blush Design piece, and put a little marking there to make sure that every time you place your stamper, it is going to face in the right direction. A simple step that will save you a ton of heartache. All right, now we're going to go in for our final stamp for this piece. So we go in 1 full pull and 1/2, and I'm pulling away, but see how I'm keeping that nozzle real close. All right, and I'm going to take my stamper, found the arrow, lining that up with the base, and I'm just going to slowly press that down. If anything is wiggling, like this is not as happy with the fact that I'm moving the stamper. If there's any give at all, you want to make sure you keep that down. There we go, we have our design. All right, now that we have everything stamped and ready to go, it's time to remove that parchment paper. Whoop. And you can just toss it to the side. Moving back and forth between 2 pieces of parchment paper where there's one that's cooling, one you're working on, and then when you place this to cool, this one's ready to go. That can save you a little bit of time and effort. But beyond that, I don't find that too much more is necessary. Next, you're going to stuff everything. So we've taken the parchment paper out, and it's time to stuff your other elements into the ribbon as well. So I have the invitation already in here. We've got the reply card with the envelope ready to go, and then your detail card as well. And we're just going to stack those neatly and slide that on in. And just take the ribbon and move that off to the side, and that's how you have it. So much easier to do this in more of an assembly line than to try and keep the ribbon still with everything in there. And there you have it. And of course you'll want to have an extra wax seal to place on the front, and you can either stamp this directly onto the envelope using the steps that we just discussed, or you can make it ahead by stamping it on the parchment paper and using one of these handy dandy little double-sided stickers, which I will have linked down below. They're double-sided, and you just remove it and just place it on there. Although I do recommend sealing your envelope first. Whether it's licking or taping, seal the envelope before you do the wax seal. But that is how you wrap up your wedding invitations with ribbon and a wax seal. It's really not as hard as it looks, and after your first 1 or 2 times doing it, you will be addicted. It will be super fun, oddly satisfying, and relaxing. My sister can also vouch for that, and she's not even a wax seal nut like I am. Anyway, I hope that you found this tutorial helpful, that it helped to clarify some things up for you. The wax seals and the invitation designs I will have linked down below, as well as the stickers and anything else I can think of. Oh, the wax itself. This is the Prosecco color by Artisire. But I hope that you are having a wonderful, wonderful day. Again, that you found this super helpful, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy stamping. As a bonus, if you're working with a belly band, this is printed vellum for your wedding invitations, you would follow the same steps. So see that beautiful vellum, how it's semi-transparent, love it. So I'm placing it here. I've got a beautiful monogram on the back, and I'm going to carefully bring it over to the front. Now I personally, especially for a design like this where the edges don't match up, to create a full aesthetic, I prefer to secure it on the back. And I'm just going to give a little crease on each side, pull this side nice and tight, little crease, and then you can either use a piece of tape straight across. I have a double-sided tape at ATG, perks of being a former wedding stationer. And so I use this to place it. Nice and fast. Once that is secure, I'm going to turn it over. I love the watercolor vellum, so pretty. And then you can place your stamper on the top. This is the Swan stamper right here. I have a swan couple. Aren't they cute? Let's do that one. And you can either have it pre-stamped and use the same stickers we talked about previously, or you can just take the stamper itself with your hot glue directly, with your hot wax, directly to the vellum itself, the belly band itself. So kind of the same process, a little bit less measuring beforehand, but once this is complete, you're able to take your inserts. For this one, we've got this beautiful green printed envelope that I love with that same monogram. We've got another toile on this envelope, but this time we've got swans and a fountain and a lake scene. I like to stack this nicely, and you just slide that in. See how that's framed beautifully? Oh, I love that. Ready to be placed in your custom envelope. It just slides right in. Love it.